Hi, my name's Emma and welcome to my channel again. If it's not your first time, then welcome back. And if it is your first time, I am an artist just starting out, getting used to getting myself out there and how to sell my paintings, learning a lot, experimenting with different mediums. And this channel is all about going from kind of the real beginning of my artist journey to hopefully being able to make it as a bit of a business rather than just a hobby. I do paint all of the time and I would love to make that into something I could do even more. So for this video I'm going to talk through how I create this meadow. I'll insert an image, and these colourful flower meadows are something that I love to paint. They're one of my go-to things that I do when I'm not sure, one, what I want to paint, or when I want something more comfortable, because they're really nice and soothing, and there's a lot you can recover from in a painting. So this type of style, if you make a mistake, it's easily covered over, there's not a lot of stress with it. I really enjoy them as well when I'm having a bit of downtime from my brain and I can't really be bothered to think a lot about, colour theory, abstract, whatever I'm painting at the time. And maybe I just want something that's just enjoyable. So here I will walk through the whole thing from start to finish, and it will literally be every step in real time. So you can see in this one I made quite a lot of mistakes because I'm not concentrating, my brain's not really in it, which is why I painted it in the first place. So that's good for you because I can show you how you can cover up those mistakes if you do make things like that. And yeah, it's probably quite a good one to just learn flowers, layering of watercolours and then acrylics. And it's super, fun, easy, and it looks pretty in the end. So materials wise, all you need is maybe a variety of different brushes. So I've got a square and a rounded one, which you'll see on the video. And then I use watercolours, which I just use the Winsor & Newton ones. I'll insert a picture here. And then I do tend to use the golden acrylics, but they're fluid acrylics. So you can get Liquitex ones, you can get a few different versions. The golden ones are quite expensive, so you might want to go for a Liquitex or something like that if you're just kind of experimenting and wanting to give it a go. And that is all. So you can use any colours really. I've chosen the colours that I choose because they're my favourites when I'm painting a meadow, but you could really use a lot of colours. Though weirdly, a colour that I stay away from, don't know why. I don't often use orange. I don't know why. I don't particularly gel with orange, but I tend to stick with purple, pinks, white, yellow, those kind of really fresh colours. And then I have started putting red in, like a poppy, and I think this is because it really draws your eye. So I started putting that in a bit more, where I used to be afraid of red, but definitely I've grown to like it a bit more. One of the first things I do is masking tape around each side. I try and keep it at equal distance apart, and this is so that you get a clean finish around each edge. I just find that it makes it a nicer, neater finish when you're done. And although you can get a mount that gives the same effect, it just is more pleasing to the eye when you get to the last bit of your painting, and you can take it all off. You do have to be careful when removing the masking tape at the end. I tend to rub my finger over it a couple of times to warm up the glue, and that means that it won't pull off your paper as much, because there's nothing worse than when you get to the end and the masking tape gets stuck on the paper or rips some of your image away. So here I'm creating my base layer. I'm using watercolours, which are Winsor & Newton watercolours. I've had this palette forever. It's one of my favourite, well, it is my favourite watercolour palette I've ever had. I've tried a couple of other ones, but I just find the colour pigments and how easy they are to use, they're really fantastic, and yeah, really good coverage and easy to mix and stuff like that. So I really enjoy this, these watercolours, and you can just buy the individual, I don't know what they're called, the individual palettes, and restore them, because I've used some colours a lot. Certain greens I ran out with straight away. So basically I'm applying greens at the bottom and then yellow at the top. This is just a colour combination that I like. You might want to do blue at the top if you want to do it like sky, or you might want to leave it a little bit lighter. But what I tend to do is put the darker colours on the bottom, so darker greens, and then also I do put a little bit of blue in sometimes, like it's a really kind of dark Payne's grey blue, and I blend it in all together. But to be honest, at this point you can just be so rough with it that I wouldn't worry about what it actually looks like, because a lot of the different markings and the lines and stuff all create a nice effect at the end. So you can see now I'm going to start making some lines. These will be kind of your grass and your stalks and things like that. And I'm using the golden fluid acrylics, which you see there. So these are my favourite, definitely my favourite fluid acrylics that you can get. They're so saturated, the colours are beautiful, and the greens and the yellows especially are probably the ones that I use the most. And I'm just using a thin brush and just really organically doing lines up and down. There's no real thought or stress about it. As long as you're going from top to bottom, you can give them a little wave or a little curve, and I just tend to get a bit messy with it, to be honest, because a lot of these, some of them I'll turn into flowers, some of them I'll just leave as background stalks or whatever. But yeah, you're just really creating the base layer. And I do tend to do so that everything kind of turns in a little bit from the sides. This is purely for an aesthetic reason. So you can see that I've got some that kind of go tall up the side and then they're leaning inwards. And that is just my preference. You might not want to do that. You might want to do bigger in the middle. It's really up to you. So again, just to make a bit of an interesting background, I do start to add some flecks of watered down paint, so just the same golden paint that I've been using, watered down, and then flicking it around on the page there. This is just to make, again, a little bit more interesting in the background. I like the look of the water splodges. So then to build on the greens that I'm using, so at the minute I'm using, I was using sap green hue, which is one of my favourites for kind of plant colours. And then this one is Jenkins Green. And the reason for that, sorry about my head there, and you can see I'm changing brushes. So now I'm changing brushes to a slightly, one's a thicker brush and with a rounded end, and it's actually been deformed slightly because it's been left in the wrong way in the pot. But for leaves and stuff, because I like it to be quite organic anyways, I don't find that, you know, the brushes can go far wrong, because it all creates interesting shapes no matter what the shape of the brush is, as long as it's not square. So in anything where I'm drawing flowers or painting flowers, I tend not to go for a square paintbrush, just because I don't want them hard lines. Sorry, and I should have said the colour that I was using, the dark green, so that's Jenkins Green, and it's more of a bluey shade, bit deeper. And the reason that I'm putting the deeper colours on now is because they are nearer the front, so anything that's nearer to the nearer to you is slightly more vibrant and slightly darker, so I tend to do them with a darker colour and then add maybe some yellow or something to the leaves just to make it more interesting. And you can see that I'm just making these really easy kind of leaf shapes with the leaves either side. They're super simple to do, but I think they look quite effective when you're just building up your layers, which I'm doing now. So now you can start to see it kind of coming together, and you're deciding on what colours to use in your painting. I'm sorry about the focus keep going in and out. It's obviously focusing on my paintbrush and my head, which keeps getting in the way, which isn't very helpful. But the colours that I tend to use, so I love again gold and fluid acrylics, but the dioxide purple. So the dioxide purple, it's really bright, really vibrant, and I find when you add a little bit of white, it has such a bold colour, which I think looks really good for flowers. And it's just, yeah, it's one of my favourite colours to use whenever I'm doing meadow paintings. Also, because of colour theory, the purple looks fantastic next to the yellow and the ochre background, which is why I tend to also use the kind of yellowy colours on the background, because it makes it punchy. So in most of my meadow paintings, I do tend to use a bit of pink, I quite like not a too vibrant pink. I try to dull it down a bit. Sometimes mixing a little bit of blue in there to dull it down, or some raw sienna to try and make it less of a pink shade, maybe a little bit more reddy orange as well in there. But yeah, I do tend to always have pink in there. And you'll notice that I'm doing another tall plant coming in, and this is just because I think it evens out the painting having the two on either side. So I like to have maybe one which has the flowers facing up and then one with the flowers facing down. I'm not actually sure which one, lupin or foxglove. I get the two mixed up all the time, but it's based on them anyways. So all of the flowers that I paint are just from memory, are just colours that I like and shapes that I like, very organic. I don't like copy off a picture or anything. I just tend to paint what I fancy. As I move on to different flower shapes, I start to use some different colours. So this is one of my other favourite colours that I use in a lot of my paintings. It's called alizarin crimson hue. Again, it's one of the golden fluid acrylics, and it is like a deep dark red, but if you add some white to it, it can lighten up, and it just gives quite a nice colour. I use it for a lot of my flowers in many of my paintings, and I think it goes well again with the yellow and the green, and I think it goes quite well with the deep purples as well. So you can see I do a lot of these types of flowers. I find them really simple to do, and yeah, they're all different shapes, which I quite like. So basically all I do is a couple of strokes, all going inwards, so that they come to a point. So I might just do 3 or 4 you do a back stroke where, and then you might do them slightly different tones and slightly different colours as well, just to show the depth of the flower. But yeah, they're one of my favourite things to do because they're just pretty simple. So now you can see I start adding a few different colours, and I'm just adding them all around the painting, making sure that I'm getting quite an even spread. So although I don't want it to look like dotty, so you have colours everywhere and it looks you don't want it to be too even, because then sometimes it can look unnatural. But I do try and break the clumps of colour up with some different colours just to make some good contrast. So I'm starting to add some white here. The white flowers always brighten it up, however you have to often go over them quite a few times, especially if you've had colour underneath, because the paint can be a little bit transparent, so I have to keep going over them a couple of times. And again, just quite slapdash with these. I was very rough on the day, just, you know, letting it flow naturally and not having to put too much thought into where I was putting things. So this is where you will see I make a mistake. I pick up a big square brush because it's just what I had hanging around, and then I start to make marks for one of the flowers in purple, but I realise partway through that it's actually far too big, and it kind of draws your eyes away from the rest of the painting. I could have kept it, I could have made something from it, but I just felt I didn't want it there, and so yeah, I left it for a bit while I carry on with the rest of the painting, but then I thought about how I can cover it over. So soon you'll see how I cover over when I've made a mistake like that on a painting like this. It's fairly easy because of the type of painting that it is, and because it's just layers on layers on layers. If something goes wrong, I can easily, you know, start again. So you can see here I've picked up some yellow paint. I am using the So Flat one, which I wouldn't normally use on a painting like this, but it's just because it's there. So as I say, this is just a really easy, common painting, so I have just grabbed whatever I've got around and thrown it all in one go. But you could use any kind of yellow acrylic really. My favourites are the golden fluid acrylics, but yeah, any yellow acrylic will do. And now I'm just putting some yellow splodges in the flowers that I've got around. And again, no kind of real process behind this. It's just putting the yellow against the contrasting colours. I do tend to really like the yellow and the white because I think obviously quite recognisable flowers that you often see in gardens. And then I love putting the yellow with the purple because of the colour contrast on, you know, colour theory and stuff like that. It looks really nice, especially a deeper yellow. So here you go, I'm just kind of splodging it all over. Sometimes I just flick it if you're just having fun and you want to have you want to make a mess. Like sometimes I just flick yellow paint all over because it really brightens up the painting. So here I start adding some red. I do like to add red into a lot of my paintings. I think red is very eye-catching. For some people, they really don't enjoy the colour. I find that when I have a meadow painting, it kind of brings focus to maybe the centre. So I do tend to use kind of a poppy red, and maybe it would go more likely quite central to the painting. as I think it draws your eye in. And poppies are so easy to do, so you can see that I've just done there. It's basically just a few brush strokes continuously on the page, and yeah, they're really simple to do. And also you can do them in watercolour or acrylic, pretty much the same process. In watercolour they look fantastic because you can water down the tops of the petals, and it creates a really kind of translucent feel, or look, sorry. And again, just to put the middle kind of central bit into the poppy, I just add either like some black and some raw umber colour, so a really dark brown, but you could use any dark brown you've got, and black. And I tend to use a fluid acrylic, and I try and bleed the two things together, so bleed the red and the black together to try and create kind of washed in messy look. Same style as what I've done for the whole painting, so very relaxed and lots of brush strokes. So you can see here I start to add some orange colours, and I actually, on hindsight, wish I hadn't added the orange, because I don't think the colours really bring much to the other colours that are in the painting. I started adding them in, and then I thought, well, if I've done one, I may as well do a couple to make it look like they're meant to be there. But yeah, on reflection, I would have happily actually just removed them. And here you'll start to see how I cover up mistakes that I've made in the painting. So I actually wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I thought maybe I'll keep the big flower shape, but then I'll change the colour. So I dabbed off any excess paint that I had there and thought, well, if I cover it over with white, then I can see where to go from there. Maybe I make it into something else, or add a different colour. I soon realised that even with the white, it just looked too, it drew the eye too much. It was too much in the forefront and I wanted rid of it. So I wiped it down, which is very messy, and there's probably better ways of doing this, but I thought, you know what it is, I just want rid of it. So I just wiped the white paint off and thought, let's start again. So as you can see, a bit messy, but we can easily cover it up. And then I think this is the beauty of doing a painting like this. Because it's a meadow painting and you've got layers and layers and layers of stalks and leaves and flowers and all sorts, it's so easy to recover from anything that goes wrong because you can just cover it up with something else. So here I just add loads of different colours of green, some different shades, maybe some yellow to try and cover it up more, so there's that bit of contrast and bit of bright colour. And then I'll leave it to dry and then cover it over a little bit more with some different shapes so you can't see it at all. So I now start to just build up the layers of the green, making sure that all of the flowers that I've got have stems attached to them, making sure that maybe they have leaves that go alongside them. So where I've got the purple petals up the side, I am making sure they're attached to a stem and maybe some leaves. And again, it's just so fluid and slapdash as you go. And I generally use a round paintbrush for this, or I have a thin square one for when I'm doing lines, so I try to get a straight line. And I tend to use dark first, so I'll use a dark green, so like Jenkins green, something really dark, forest coloured, and then I go over it with a really light green with a lot of yellow in it. So it might be green gold or whatever shades of light green you've got. But I think the only one thing that I will say is I tend to stay away from like vivid lime greens, so they're a bit cooler, and I try to go more towards a like yellowy warm tone. And I just add some different shaped leaves, so using different brushes, really fluid, just think, oh, where would a line look good, and where would a leaf look good, and what would benefit from some contrast, which is often what I question to myself. So where is there dark that would benefit from some light, and where is there too much light that it needs some dark and needs some contrast in there? So that's basically how I make the decisions of where I'm going to put things, what space needs to be broken up. So you can see I'm now breaking up a bit of that space in the middle because it looked a little bit too bare. So I'll just continue doing this until I'm happy with the density. So you're probably wondering what these little circles are that I do at the start in the pinky red colour. And those are to turn into little seed buds. So I tend to do these in a lot of my meadow pictures because it breaks up just the shapes of the petals and things, and it gives it, yeah, a little bit of contrast. I've done it here in a reddy colour, but actually often I do them in greens, darker colour or deeper colour on the bottom, and then layer maybe light green on top. And here you can see I've got the red on the bottom and I'm layering a green on top for the contrast of colour. So it's super easy, just a few lines following the circle shape going from top to bottom, and then a few dots on the top, which you might use like a more greeny tone, and then a few at the bottom so it looks like where the stem goes in. So now you might notice that I'm just trying to thicken it out with some leaves, creating again contrast. So I'm using bright, limey, yellowy coloured greens to try and create the contrast, but with the dark underneath. And again, it's just thickening it out like you would see a real meadow. And here's the final thing. It's nice, bright and colourful, and you can see the white crisp borders set it off nicely. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks!